Okay. We shall begin again. Okay, good evening. I am Louis Vieira, Chairman of our HART Board of Directors. Please silence all electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. Welcome to the September 8th, 2025 Board of Directors regular meeting, which is now called to order. The meeting format is hybrid with board members physically present at the HART Administrative Office at 1201 East 7th Avenue, Florida Conference Room, and participating via communication media technology. We will jump. We've obviously already done our Pledge of Allegiance, which carries over, I would suggest, into this meeting as it's one meeting. And next we will go into public comment. And I didn't know, there you go, Mr. Smith, if you had any comments before that, sir.
Yes, we always like to have a caveat. Members of the public have a right to speak on any relevant issue during the public comment process. However, certain items may be rooted in contractual performance or pending litigation, and discussion of those are prohibited by HART Board's policies. We also are prohibited to have any involvement by the board in any normal employer-employee relationship between the CEO and any other employee or employee union of HART. An example of this is that we will have forthcoming a impasse meeting due to the collective bargaining negotiations, and this board will have to serve as an impartial tribunal in order to ensure due process is provided. So we are prohibited from talking about those issues as well. With those caveats, please make your comments.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Okay, the HART Board of Directors welcomes comments from citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valid in terms of providing input to the board members when addressing the board. Comments shall not be directed personally against a board member or staff member, especially me, I'm joking, but rather directed at the issues. This provides a mutual respect between the board members, staff, and the public. Or strike that. The board has set aside a 30-minute period for public comments as stated in our HART Board Policy 210, subsection 4A. The chair will call on speakers by name in the order in which your request to speak have been received. When addressing the board, please state your name and speak clearly. Up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. Please refrain from any discussions on any matter brought up during public comment until after all board comment or public comment has been completed. Okay, we will proceed with our first of two speakers who are signed up, Mr. John Green, followed by Vanessa Coolidge. Mr. Green, go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Good evening, John Green. I'm here to speak on the classification that y'all have going on. I've been getting calls from the drivers where you move the paratransit to the bus operators in terms of pay. So that's a step up from what the paratransit does. Article 26, page 26, section 4 reads, bargaining unit employees work out of classification and a higher classification within the division shall be paid at the entry level of the higher classification. Then you go on in Article 74, page 81, subsection 6, for training qualification. Employees assigned to work out of classification must possess the necessary qualifications, certifications, and training. Now, I hold a CDL license. This is my medical card that I have to drive with. Paratransit doesn't need that. The state law states that if you're driving anything that has 16 passengers or more, you require a CDL. Paratransit does not require a CDL. So why are they getting paid the same pay as the bus operators? This is a violation. This is the new contract that y'all just ratified and signed this year that you're still violating the contract. Why? Why do you do this to the drivers? Every other department, including non-bargaining units, have a classification except for the bus operators. They hold a CDL driver's license, and then the paratransit get moved. Was that move conducive to the company, being that you saying that you broke, right? Didn't that take a couple $1 million maybe to do that, to make that move? So you talking about managing money? Maybe we ought to look at the CEO and the COO who gets 33% raises from previous jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Next, we have Ms. Vanessa Coolidge.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, I'm expressing deep concern regarding the proposal reduction of dismantling of the bus services, HART Plus and regular bus for Tampa and the surrounding areas. These services are more than a convenient. They are a lifeline for many. I'm disabled, and I know some other people are, and citizens and working citizens who depend on everyday living. Okay, for countless residents, including myself, public transportation is essential. It provides the only way to get to work, attend critical medical appointments, receive dialysis treatment, purchase groceries, and maintain even the most basic qualities of life. Without these services, many people will lose access to their jobs, compromise their health, and face unnecessary hardship. While some in our community may have reliable personal transportation and steady income, many others do not. I am one of the 840,908, sorry, I had dialysis there, I can't kind of read, sorry. Registered voters in the county, and my voice represent not only myself, but others, the voice of the country. The counties, others who rely on these buses to survive. Public service exists to serve the community as a whole, and decisions about them should reflect fairness, compassion, and responsibility. Authority is not simply, it's not simply the power of decision, but the duty to ensure the well-being of those most vulnerable, as scripture remind us. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. That's Proverbs. I urge you to consider the human cost of cutting these essential services. These buses are not just vehicles. They represent independency, dignity, and survival for many of our community. Okay. I respectfully ask that you prioritize solutions that preserve accessibility and protect the health and livelihoods and quality of life of all citizens. Thank you for your time and for your service in our community. Okay, I'm kind of nervous a little bit because I had dialysis today. I really didn't get no sleep. But I just want to make, the bus services has really been helpful. I've been on dialysis 2010. And I am disabled. We have people that's blind, that's disabled. We got to try to live.
And Ms. Coolidge,
yes.
I'm very sorry, but your time is up. But I do want to tell you that I've been on this board for a couple of years, and yours is the best public comment I've ever heard. I mean that.
Well, yeah, it's from the heart, and Jesus with me. He knows what this I need to say. Yes.
Amen. God bless you. And if I may, I'm going to pass my number to you. I'd love to meet with you. Okay.
Okay.
God bless you.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Well,
I had to pay here to come.
So how about this? Are you going to stay for the whole meeting?
When is because my bus? I don't want to miss my bus. But
So I'll have somebody send you. I'll meet with you. I promise. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay. Is this a phone right here or is this a recorder?
I'm not sure. We'll find out soon, I reckon. Thank you, Ms. Coolidge. We appreciate you. Anybody else here for public comment? Okay. The next agenda item is approval of the meeting minutes from the July 21st, 2025 Board of Directors regular meeting, which are included in the board packet. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? We have a motion, I believe it was by Board Member Hartfield, I think seconded by Board Member Sisler. Roll call, please.
Chair Viera,
Yes.
Director Wolfstall,
Yes.
Director Schiffler,
Yes.
Director Cameron Cepeda,
Yes.
Director Hartfield,
Yes.
Director Hobbs,
Yes.
Director King,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director McElpatrick,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Niebrick,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next is the consent agenda. The HART Finance and Audit Committee met on August 18th and recommended approval of action items 4A through 4F. The Litigations and Claims Committee met on September 2nd, 2025, and recommended approval of action item 4G. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Wosel, or Vice Chair, seconded by Board Member Myers. Roll call, please.
Chair Viera,
Yes.
Director Wolsel,
Yes.
Director Schistler,
Yes.
Director Cameron Cepeda,
Yes.
Director Hartfield,
Yes.
Director Hobbs,
Yes.
Director King,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director McElpatrick,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Niebrick,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Board. Next is an action, strike that, an action item with presentation. The HART Strategic Planning and External Relations Committee met on August 18th, 2025, and recommended approval of action item 5A, Resolution R2025-09-38, to authorize HART staff to conduct public outreach for proposed June 2026 service changes. Our CEO, Drainville, you are recognized, sir, to provide an overview of this item.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening again, board members. As you remember, at the May 5th, 2025 board meeting, you received the first overview of the Comprehensive Operations Analysis, or COA, outlining the purpose, scope, timeline, ridership, and productivity analysis. After that, the staff conducted a series of internal and external surveys and created proposed service changes. The next step we presented to the August committee and today to the board is to request your authorization to conduct public outreach. Public outreach is expected until the public hearing on October 15th. All comments will be carefully analyzed and the scenarios adjusted based on the feedback. So again, we're here today requesting the board approve just going on public outreach. So I'd like to invite to the podium Mr. Jesus Garcia, Manager of Service Development, and Mr. Donnie Murray, Manager of Community and Business Engagement, to introduce this action item.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Viera, board members, Mr. Drainville. My name is Jesus Garcia, as Scott just mentioned, Manager of Service Development, and I'm joined by my colleague, Donnie Murray, Manager of Community and Business Engagement. Today, we will provide a summary of the proposed service changes that we would like to take to the public. And the action before you today is to authorize HART staff to conduct public outreach for proposed June 2026 service changes. What we're asking is for your permission to engage with the public. This is about giving the public a voice in this process. Here's the timeline of the COA. This project has been ongoing since July of last year. Now we have finalized the proposed service changes after the board's approval today to do public outreach. We're gonna take this proposal to the public for feedback. With that feedback, we'll make any tweaks necessary and bring it back to the committee and the board in the January-February timeframe for final approval of these service changes, which would be implemented in June of 2026. Lastly, the COA will inform the major update of the Transit Development Plan, which we will be working on next year. So we'll be coming back to you with the future vision next year. COA stands for Comprehensive Operational Analysis. It is a full review of the entire system to identify strengths and weaknesses, and it results in short-term improvements. It's best practice to do this every 5 to 7 years. The last time we did something like this was in 2021. As part of this study, we wanted to understand how demand has shifted since COVID and see where our top productivity is, to see how we can reallocate resources to impact quality of service for riders and quality of life for operators with things such as frequency and on-time performance. To clarify, this is different from the Transit Development Plan, which we will be updating next year, as I mentioned. The COA is a short-term plan and it is cost neutral, which means it doesn't cost additional money, but it also does not save money. No new funding is assumed in a COA. The TDP is a 10-year plan. It includes unfunded needs, things such as growing service, for example. And it looks at what the priorities would be if new funding became available. The COA aims to bring the best value within existing resources by aligning them with service demand. It is the foundation of the TDP. So these two things, while not the same, they are related. Next, let's talk a little bit about the COA analysis. The consultant WSP, represented here today by Ms. Cassandra Borchers, they already presented the preliminary results in the May board meeting. This is just a brief recap, and then I'm going to show the draft proposal. So we looked into several analysis factors and data points, as you can see on the slide, things like performance, density and growth, demographics, and of course, input from our employees and the public. The main takeaways of the analysis are HART's ridership is increasing with less service provided, as shown by the graph on the right. We are also seeing that of those 11.3 million annual riders, just over half are within the city of Tampa, and just under half are in unincorporated Hillsborough County and city of Temple Terrace. The second takeaway is that the majority of routes are performing at or above standard, meaning that there is not much we can cut in good faith, or as I like to say, there's not much fat to trim. And lastly, about 2/3 of the system runs hourly service, but remarkably, some of those hourly routes are overperforming. So what you've always been waiting for, this is the list of proposed service changes that we would like to take to the public. The outreach will target the users of the affected routes. Remember that this is a cost-neutral proposal. The reductions are minimal, but the resources are reallocated from lower performing service to higher performing service. On the right side of the table, you can see the pros, the cons, and the alternatives for these proposed service changes. Please note that the changes on this slide can be adjusted based on public input and board input. The status quo is an option. As a reminder, approval today is just for outreach. This is not final adoption. This will come back to the HART board in January, February for final approval. As for the specific changes, we're proposing to increase frequency on an hourly route to every 30 minutes. That's Route 9, which runs along 15th Street and 30th Street. We're also proposing on-time performance improvements to Route 34 on Hillsborough Avenue by adding an extra bus to help with heavy traffic. In order to make these improvements, we're proposing to reduce the span of service by 1 trip on Routes 7 and 46 due to having the lowest ridership by trip in the system. We're also proposing to remove routes 24LX and 25LX, which are express routes from Fishhawk and Bloomingdale to South Tampa, and also remove the HART Flex South County van service. While we do not take this decision lightly, these 3 routes are the lowest performance in the system, and we would like to use those resources to serve more people more efficiently. An example of an alternative for those affected is Route 360LX, which serves as an alternative for the riders of the routes 24LX and 25LX. We also identified a proposed operational improvement on Route 37, which is removing the loop into the HCC Brandon campus. And lastly, we're exploring options for microtransit for places like South County. Now, I will hand it over to Donnie Murray to walk you through the public outreach efforts.
Good evening, board members. My name is Donnie Murray. I'm the HART Manager of Community and Business Engagement. So with today's board approval, we will then do a public input effort with lots of outreach to receive feedback about these proposed service changes so that the community can be a part of this decision-making process. We will accept comments for an entire month from September 15th to October 15th. And we plan the outreach so that we'll be able to reach as many people as possible, particularly with providing lots of events, provide good face-to-face time so that people can ask questions directly with somebody. And then we're also going to have a variety of different formats. So the different avenues that people will have to be able to submit a comment, including digital and physical, we'll have a dedicated online webpage. Somebody can fill out a form directly online. But we will also have multiple events throughout the county so that people can talk to HART staff and fill out a physical comment card. So we'll be having staff at transit and transfer centers. We'll be hosting open houses at community centers. We'll also be hosting online virtual town halls. We'll be focusing these outreach events as well in those areas that are impacted, along with we'll also have HART staff writing the routes that will be potentially affected in that proposed change list. We have been coordinating with the Hillsborough TPO, and they have provided us a consultant to provide additional staffing for this effort as well, again, to make sure we have as many hands and faces as possible to reach our riders. Board members will be notified of all these public meeting dates and times and receive a copy of the materials that the public will be receiving. And then, of course, people can also provide comments through email, regular mail, and calling customer service, because no matter the format, no matter the method that they're contacting us, it's all going to be considered equally. It's all going into the same spreadsheet. So whether, again, they're calling us or attending the public hearing, it's all going into that same spreadsheet. Then we will have a full marketing effort to promote these proposed service changes and the opportunity to comment. So we'll have a flyer that lists all the proposed changes. We'll have a flyer that lists all the dates and the ways that somebody can provide a comment. And then we'll also have maps comparing any of the route changes that we have. We're also going to make sure that all these materials are simple, easy to understand, and also translated into Spanish. And then we'll promote this opportunity to comment through all of our marketing channels. So we'll have a notice on our transit app, mobile app. We'll post on our HART website. We'll post on board the buses. We'll send out an email e-blast, put advertisements in newspapers, post on our social media channels, and contact our stakeholders and our internal employees. So again, to recap the next steps in the process, after today's board approval, we will do an outreach for an entire month. The team will review this feedback, make any adjustments if necessary to the proposal plan. We'll then bring what we heard from the public and this final proposed service changes list to the January board meeting, just as an informational item so you can hear the information and then have time to process before then making a decision at the January committee and the February board of 2026. The process takes about 16 weeks to do the service change adjustment. So we're looking at a June 2026 service change adjustment. So to recap, the action before you today is to authorize HART staff to conduct public outreach for proposed June 2026 service changes. Thank you for your time. We can take any of your questions.
Thank you very much for that. Any board questions or comments or? Yes, ma'am. Board Member Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Do you know the locations where you're going to host your meetings?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to have 4 open houses. We will have it at the Riverview Library, the Bloomingdale Library, HCC South Shore, and the Waimama Senior Center.
Okay, I'm going to suggest you post so people would know, because what you presented, it wasn't posted. That's what I was looking for on part of the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. We didn't want to post it just yet because we weren't sure before today's board approval if there might be changes to any of the proposed service changes or any different information. So we were waiting until this approval, and then yes, we'll be sending out that list. And we will be posting at all of these centers as well, letting people know, hey, coming up in a week, there's this meeting that you can attend.
A week notice?
At least a week. It depends on when the open house is scheduled. Some will be a week, some will be 2 to 3.
Yeah, we need to give more than a week notice.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We'll do that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry. Board Member Schisler.
Yes, thank you. This isn't really a question regarding the public outreach. It's something we need to do, and also go ahead and do it. But I just have a general question. You know, and we're trying to fix service, improve it, and there's pushback, if you will. And that's not the right word. I apologize for that. For lack of service within the unincorporated Hillsborough County. What is the process for developing and designing new opportunities? All we're doing with this is cutting, and it doesn't help the overall spread of the service in my mind. So what? And I'm not asking you to do that for this, because this is you know, you guys have worked very hard on it, and I appreciate the effort. But how do we identify, or what do we do to proactively identify new opportunities within unincorporated Hillsborough County, whether south, east, northwest, or whatever, to increase the levels of service? And it's not saying you're not doing it. I just don't know what the mechanism is. So what do we do internally to look for new opportunities and increase it?
Yeah, so both this effort and the TDP coming up are going to do that. So the COA analysis did look at what are the current activity centers, how has that changed since COVID? So this effort did help us identify places like University area, Brandon, areas that need service. We also continually throughout the year are receiving feedback from the community. We actually just received an email recently about the Route 9, one of the many reasons why we chose that route for development. But the TDP is also going to be that main piece of information where we'll really start to dive into, you know, without funding constraints, where do we know that service is needed? What are the corridors? What are the areas? What are the neighborhoods? And most importantly, what are people saying? So we will be doing an outreach effort as well next year to talk about that unconstrained, unfunded need, to start identifying where service needed the most and how can we prioritize that needs list.
Yeah, and also, sorry, as part of that process, we do have the travel demand model. It's also a piece in that puzzle, the travel demand model. So that's something that was run as part of the COA, and that can inform where there's need, and once funding is identified, where new service could go.
Thank you. Anyone else? Board Member Hartfield?
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
and then
Chair.
Board Member
Thank you,
Jones.
gentlemen, for the presentation. I noticed that you mentioned that there's work with the TPO as well as it relates to both the short-term plan as well as the 10-year plan. But what does our projections look like? I'm kind of piggybacking on what Director Schischler was alluding to. The long-term projections for growth here in the county, and how are we managing for that? If we're cutting now, potentially, how do we manage for growth over the next 5, 10 plus years where we see growth happening here in the county?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we did look at growth projections and population and jobs and things like that. Our current service serves most of the areas with the high density right now, and it will continue to do so because the growth is focused on those areas that are already dense. In terms of the proposal, it is a reallocation, so there is cutting to add in a way, so it's not a net cut. I also wanted to clarify that. But as for growth, we did look into it, and there were no like glaring gaps, service gaps. We already serve in the areas that have the density of jobs and population.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Wilson.
Sure. I wanted to say thanks. I've been talking about 3 of the routes on there for quite some time, and I appreciate you guys considering giving them another look, specifically those LX routes. I mean, it didn't take a genius to look at the numbers and see that just had abysmal ridership. And, originally when I asked about the South County, Waimama area, I was told, I was given a hard no that we wouldn't be able to do some type of micro transit down there. And, my frustration with that is that if anybody's ever been to Waimama, the city of Tampa doesn't have the poorest people in Hillsborough County, and Waimama is the poorest people in Hillsborough County. And, we tax them and continue to not provide them a service with their tax dollars. And I appreciate that we've given that another look in this study to potentially provide them with microtransit service. I think it'll prove their ability to get around to those areas in the South Shore area. So I appreciate it very much. And it's, the questions about improving, I've had many conversations with you. You're a really smart guy, but the unincorporated area, just doesn't have the density to support this ridership that we get in the city of Tampa and through University area, Temple Terrace, right? And as we grow, I think some of the lead-ins there is that, yes, we have growth projections of a couple 100,000 more people, and the majority of that is going to be in the unincorporated area, specifically in Commissioner Miller's area. But the growth that's coming there is not going to be the density. Is that a reasonable conclusion? I know that you're not in our growth and development, but so you have an idea, the majority of it is going to be residential for single family homes, planned development communities more than likely. And, that's a lot of what we have in like the West Chase area, things like that. Those areas, we're not bus riders. Is that a reasonable conclusion that even if we grow, we're not packing density like you have here in Ybor, which is what you need, this type of density to support urban transit like this? Is that a fair?
That goes back to Director Hartfield's question. HART provides service to the densest parts of the county, whether it's city or not city. We have Brandon, we have University area. Some of our most productive routes are in the northwest quadrant of Fletcher and Bruce B. Downs, and those are unincorporated Hillsborough County. So if you look at areas that develop residential for and things like that, those are very hard to serve with regular transit. But but it is unfair to treat all of unincorporated Hillsborough the same way.
Yeah. That was kind of the point I was getting at. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you looking at those routes. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? I wanted to say, to add to that, I'm glad that Board Member Wosel, Vice Chair Wosel, brought up the Waimama area. Anything that we can do to help the folks out there, whether it's microtransit, whatever it is. He's very correct. There's lot of lower income folks out there, a lot of farm workers. And, you know, if HART isn't relevant to them, then man, we got to become relevant because those folks need help, obviously. I don't preach into the choir, but I'm glad that that was mentioned because I think that's important. Okay, there being no further comments, is there a motion to approve? And thank you guys for your presentation.
So moved.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Board or Vice Chair Wilson did a motion to pass this resolution, seconded, I believe it was by Board Member Williams. Roll call, please.
Chair Viera,
Yes.
Director Wolstel,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Cameron Cepeda,
Yes.
Director Hartfield,
Yes.
Director Hobbs,
Yes.
Director King,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director McElpatrick,
Yes.
Director Mechanic, Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Niebrick,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Mechanic. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda item is a post-session report for HART legislative priorities. Our Hall in the Night team is here today. Some are virtual. I see some of them here in the audience. Good to see you guys this evening. Y'all are recognized to do your report.
Good evening, Chair Vieira, Vice Chair Wilstel, Board of Directors. I'm Lisa Barkovic. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor at Holland & Knight in the Washington, D.C. office. And I'm joined here with my colleague, Kim Case, who leads your Tallahassee effort. Online, we have Mark Delgall, and also with us here, we have Jeff Booth. It's our pleasure to give you an update today of brief legislative update, both in Washington, D.C. and Tallahassee, and to talk about our priorities for HART going forward. So on the federal side, we are in the midst of discussions regarding reauthorization of the Surface Transportation Law. The current law is the IIJA, also some of you might know it as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. It expires next year, September 30th, 2026. It takes quite a bit of time to bring everybody together to get that law reauthorized. And discussions have already started and work has already begun in earnest with the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee holding hearings earlier this year. They have been soliciting proposals, which HART has been submitting for, and we've been in support of APTA's legislative requests for the surface transportation bill. We're expecting that actually we could possibly see a draft from the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee end of October so that they can prepare it for markup in early November. The Senate is further behind only because they have a lot more committees that have to go through their various different components. For example, the Senate Banking Committee oversees the transit portion and they haven't requested proposals yet. But the Environment and Public Works Committee have obviously been taking requests, as well as the Senate Commerce Committee. And as you know, most of all of the federal funding for public transportation is authorized in this law. And just to kind of recap what the IIJA did for public transportation, it authorized and appropriated over $108 billion over 5 years for public transportation. That's an average of about $21.4 billion every year. That was an increase of 67% prior to the IIJA through the FAST Act and MAP 21. So this is a very big deal, and we'll continue to advocate for HART and for public transportation as this goes forward. Obviously the goal is to get this done by September 30th. We have chairmen that are working in earnest and in a bipartisan fashion to get this done. With regards to federal grants, HART went ahead and submitted over the summer, back in July, grant applications through the Low No grant program, as well as bus and bus facilities. Those are currently under review, and we expect the Federal Transit Administration to make those award announcements by the end of September. However, timing could slip some. The Build Grant Program, it continues to have mandatory spending from the IIJA, so we're expecting the next round of funding to open up in November of this year. There'll be at least $1.5 billion available, and a possible, we could see that money, that funding level go up through the appropriations process. And of course, HART did such a wonderful job. I can't stop talking about it, but again, to be able to be one of those, to get the 23 million from earlier this year through the build grant process, that is a great win for HART, and we'll continue to kind of build upon that success. And then obviously, we're looking at the other grant programs that are out there, TOD, capital investment grants. And why I'm just talking about grants, one of the things I'll just mention that in our discussions through the reauthorization process is there is a feeling that the IIJA created too many new grant programs, and so we could see a consolidation through the next law. So just a feeling that there are lots of grant programs where you could submit the same project in lots of different pots, which makes it, one, hard for a grantee to constantly be having to submit the same project through a variety of different buckets. So, and then of course, the manpower it takes for DOT to review those. So that could be something to watch for. And just quickly, federal priorities, obviously, these are things that have been talked about and top priorities for HART, but continue to seek federal funding for the 21st Avenue Operations Maintenance Facility project, money for vehicle replacements, and then bus stop capital improvement projects. So I also know that Melanie had mentioned that in her presentation earlier today. And I'll turn it over to Kim to talk about the state.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, board members. I'm Kimberly Case. Half of your state advocacy team in Tallahassee, and also online is Mark Delegal, who can also answer any questions. I'll just briefly give you an overview of what happened that impacts transit this past session. The regular session, which was scheduled for 60 days, was extended to June 16th due to some disagreements, frankly, between the governor, the Senate, and the House regarding what the budget should look like and different types of tax relief that should be included in the budget. And even though the budget was leaner this year and smaller, I think it's important to note that the legislature included $2.5 million in a line item for HART. And that was specifically for the planning and design of HART's maintenance facility. That's the first time we've gotten a line item appropriation. And Senator Roussan and Representative Valdez were our sponsors. We also had strong support from the House Budget Chair, Lawrence McClure, who's also part of the Hillsborough delegation, and House and Senate leadership. And I think that that is an indication that the story that we've been sharing with legislators up in Tallahassee, both your state advocacy team as well as CEO Drainville, Chair, and many of you that have come to Tallahassee with us to have those meetings, to have those discussions, it's had an impact. And we've also shown from the study that FDOT did as a result of legislation in 2022, the 2023 study that came out that showed that HART is doing more with less, resonates as well. And that had an impact, which is why I think that funding was included. However, it was a partial victory because the governor did veto that funding along with numerous other local appropriation request transportation projects. And it wasn't directed at HART. It had nothing to do with the merits. It was actually the stage of the project. So things that were projects that were in the planning and design stage, most of them, frankly, were vetoed, whereas those transportation, local appropriations request projects that were in that final mile, if you will, that final piece which would enable the construction project to be completed, they were funded. I'll briefly highlight two other small changes that could impact transit I just want to highlight, and that's House Bill 7031. That was the tax package that was released at the very end of session. There was one change to the New Starts program. That's a 50%, that can be up to 50% non-federal match for rail as well as BRT. So it doesn't actually impact our heavy maintenance facility, but I just want to point out that they did make a change and eliminated the dock stamp revenue, but they are continuing to include the motor vehicle tag program that can be used as a revenue match source for new starts if we ever utilize that. Public Transit Block Grant Program, that was Senate Bill 1662. That was part of FDOT's package that they do every year. And there was one change in an effort to ensure greater transparency, fiscal accountability of taxpayer dollars for transit. All transit programs will have some additional reporting requirements for performance measures to the Florida Transportation Commission. And we're currently in contact with FDOT and our HART team to ensure that we're compliant. So we're already working on that. For the 2026 session, it's going to be an early session, so it'll be January 13th through March 13th, hopefully no extended session. That remains to be seen. And in the meantime, we're going to be having interim committee meetings that will start actually in October. And so one of the big issues that will be, a topic of discussion, and it's already been identified by the governor as a priority, as well as House Speaker has created a select committee, a bipartisan committee that's looking at property tax relief. How can that be structured? And whatever comes from that, and we don't have proposals yet, but they're actually meeting this month as well. But we expect to see some proposals that will be brought forward to the legislature in forms of, joint resolutions that will then be placed on the ballot once they are passed in November for some type of property tax relief. And the other thing that we're doing is continued political outreach, just like we've been doing. We are working on setting up meetings with key members of the delegation, as well as the executive branch and legislators, to talk about any potential emerging issues or proposals that could have an impact on HART. And we just want to ensure that we're part of those conversations and are able to have a positive impact. So that's the state update as well. Happy to take any questions for federal or state.
Okay, thank you very much, guys, for your presentation. Detailed as always. Any questions or comments from anyone? Yes, sir. Board Member Hartfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. A couple questions for you. So I'm aware that beginning October 1, sales tax on commercial leases will no longer be levied. Based on your analysis, if you've done one, what will be the impact for local entities like a HART or just local government? And in addition to that, what's your forecast for what property tax will look like? As you know, a property tax relief will look like, because as you are aware, a large portion of our budget is funded by property taxes. So that being said, those are my kind of two pressing questions that you may not have answers for, but I respectfully receive whatever you have to offer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the first question, I do not have an analysis readily available, but I know some numbers have been run, so we're happy to provide that on what that commercial sales tax reduction elimination looks like, and we can get that to you and it can be shared with the board. On the second issue, there was actually an article today that talked about what potentially could happen in property tax relief. Several of the proposals that didn't happen last year was, for example, a direct rebate of $1,000. That didn't happen. There's obviously been a desire by some to have a complete elimination of property taxes. Another discussion has been, increasing homestead exemption, but I really can't predict what's going to happen on that, just because obviously so much of local government, it relies on that, as well as this agency. And I think we'll know more even this coming in the next 2 weeks. I think it's September 22nd or the 23rd. I'll have to look, but that's when the select committee is meeting. And I think we'll start seeing some more robust discussions on what potentially could be passed and put on the ballot. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Just thank you guys again for your presentation. We appreciate all y'all's hard work. It was a shame about that veto, obviously out of our hands. I mean, for me, that maintenance facility is issue number one. If you go out there, for me, it's a matter of not just moving forward, but just respect for the people that work out there. And I hope that someday we can get that, because that's, obviously out of our control. Y'all did great in getting that money, and through bipartisan support and everything. And so we appreciate it, and just always salute the hard work that y'all do, and say hi to my former favorite congressman. Thank you. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Next, we move on to our CEO's report. CEO Drainville, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chair. So just two quick updates. So regarding financial highlights and audits, HART wrapped up all audits received preliminary reviews. The financial management oversight, or FMO, follow-up review has been completed. FDOT completed its triennial safety and security audit of the HART streetcar system. We received a preliminary report. Staff is preparing a response and corrective action plan. As I previously reported, FTA conducted a triennial review of HART. This review helps FTA determine whether its recipients are administering FTA-funded programs in accordance with Chapter 53, Title 49 of the United States Code, which outlines federal transit law. The review assesses management practices and program implementation to ensure that the FTA programs are administered in accordance with FTA requirements and are meeting the program objectives. The review was coordinated with the regional office. It will assess HART's compliance with the administrative relief and flexibilities granted by the FTA, as well as the requirements associated with the COVID-19 relief funds received through the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, and the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. HART staff attended an exit conference with the FTA team and reviewers. A summary of the preliminary findings is expected within the next 2 weeks. It will be shared with the Board of Directors at the upcoming meetings. But in the meantime, I would like to stress how proud I am of the team who were commended by the FDA staff for impressive response time and coordination during the triennial review, for solid processes and procedures in place. Out of the 23 functional areas reviewed, HART received only 3 comments with recommendations for improvement, which will be addressed by the team within the allotted time. And then for community engagement. Community engagement concluded one of its most successful summer youth presentation campaigns throughout the summer. We engaged in 1,100 students between the ages of 5 and 17 years old. The summer youth presentation is an interactive hour-long classroom activity that provides local youth with valuable information through hands-on learning. Topics included where transit is, how to ride, fun destinations, and the important role of public transit in our community's well-being. Last year's total was 10 summer camps. We doubled that by visiting a total of 20 this year, including Hillsborough County, City of Tampa, Boys and Girls Club, and the YMCA locations. The program strengthened our organization's connections with the community groups, summer camp, schools, and families. The feedback from the program directors and the community leads have been overwhelmingly positive. Several teens expressed interest in the future careers at HART, and we provided resources to put them on the right track. The community engagement team continued connecting with students as they returned to campus from the summer. HART visited the U Tampa to share information about how college students can access discounted fares, take Route 30 to the airport, and use the free Tico Line streetcar to explore all the fun activities within the urban core. And I just want to give a shout out to Ms. Carla Williams and her team for a job well done in this community engagement. So thank you. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? Okay. Next is our chair's report. I really have nothing, which is obviously on just for the public on Thursday is September 11th. And I know there's a lot of events. I know you have the Bayshore Patriots always wave flags on Bayshore. We have the City of Tampa commemoration over Firefighters Museum, and of course our friends in the county, I think at 10:30 that day have so if anybody wants to go, a lot of opportunities here to honor that day. We have our HART Board Council's report. Mr. Smith.
Basically, we do not have very much. I have a lot of things we're working on, but there's some things that footage that could change the revisions of the policies we're contemplating, so we're going to wait. I would also have to remind everybody that the impasse hearing is scheduled for October 7th, and we really need you to attend. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any October 7th? Yeah, the hearing. Yes, ma'am. Okay. HART Board committee reports are in section 10. Reports from HART Board representatives are in section 11. Information reports are in section 12. Staff is present to answer any questions from the board on these. Any questions? Okay. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Yes, sir. Board Member Hartfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to acknowledge the CEO and tell him good job for the work that he's doing and continue to lead our staff in the face of sometimes seeing news that is troubling, but to continue to make sure that our staff are supported and that they understand in what is tumultuous times as far as the economy and employment is concerned, that they feel secure and supported and that staff morale is not affected. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Very much appreciated.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I do have a report. I'm sorry.
Please, yes, sir.
One of the things we're looking at is reviewing and revising some of HART's policies.
Mhm.
But in order to do that, you have a policy that says the board must instruct us to look at
Mhm.
it. So we need a motion to look at the policies, see which ones need to be revised and updated, and we'll start that process pursuant to that motion if it's approved.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Wosel, seconded by Board Member Schisler. Any comments or discussions on this motion? Okay, roll call, please.
Chair Viera?
Yes.
Director Wolstel?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Cameron Cepeda?
Yes.
Director Hartfield?
Yes.
Director Hobbs?
Yes.
Director King?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director McAlpatrick?
Yes.
Director Mechanic? Director Miller?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Niebrick?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, sir? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, there being no new business, and I will agree that Scott Dreamville is the man, by the way. He's always doing a great job, regardless of where you come from. He's a good guy. And so this concludes all business for today. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. You all have a good one.